Have you ever had a really bad job? There's a good chance that you have. Usually, a bad job can make your life miserable. And I think that the same can be true of a course. Have you ever had a really bad course that you've taken? Well, why was it terrible? One of my favorite books is a book by Patrick Lencioni called The Three Signs of a Miserable Job. And in it, he suggests that there are three things that cause almost any job to be miserable. And I believe that the same is true for creating courses, whether they're online or in person. And I think those three things match up really well. According to Lencioni, he says that anonymity, irrelevance, and immeasurement are the three things that make a job miserable. Any one of those things will make a job miserable, and I think any one of those things will also make for a miserable course. So let's look in at these just a little bit closer. First, anonymity. Basically, the idea behind this is that if you are taking a class and let's say your professor doesn't even know your name, maybe you're just a number in the class, there's no connection. That's really hard to enjoy the class. Being invisible, while some students may want to be invisible, may try to hide, the truth of it is nobody really wants to be invisible with something that they do, something that's important. If it's important, then they probably aren't going to be invisible. So I think it's important when you're creating a course that you make sure that when you interact with your students that you know their names, that you care about them, that you allow for them to be people, and above all, that you respect them. When you do those things, there's a few outcomes. The most important ones are that you will respond quickly when they need you. That's answering emails, whether it's answering the phone, holding office hours, but you are there to respond, as well as grading on time. That's a very important show of respect, and if you just ignore, then there's nothing that makes somebody feel as invisible as being ignored. So my first piece of advice is that you respect your students by responding quickly and doing it on time. Okay, the second part is irrelevance. So this is an important part, is understanding where you and where your course fits into the picture of a student's life. Now, there's a good chance that you do this anyways. A good program should have this all mapped out. But have you ever had a class where you didn't understand why you were supposed to be doing something? You know, I used to hear this all the time from my kids when they were learning math in school. Why do I even have to learn this? I don't even understand what I'm supposed to be doing. It's because you need to connect it to a bigger picture, and part of that is making it real. So my suggestion for you with this one is to be very clear about what you're having students do, and as part of your explanation, be sure that you're providing real-world projects and examples. Moving on to the third area, immeasurement. Have you ever played Candy Crush? I love Candy Crush, and I'm not sure why, but I think it has something to do with this picture that we see. They are so good at telling you exactly what is required and what you're supposed to do to get 3 stars, to get 2 stars, to move through this silly game, and to move on. People like knowing where they are and what they're supposed to do. Measures are a good thing, and that's especially true of an online class. So it's important that you write measurable outcomes and that you establish clear expectations for your students. That means you're going to be very clear about how you're going to communicate with students, and you will also make recommendations like how much time it's going to take to study for an exam. You also have a simplified grading scheme, something that people can understand what is expected of them. One of the complaints I hear most frequently from friends when they're taking classes is that they don't know what the teacher really wants. They spend half of their time trying to guess and figure out the teacher so that they can be measured correctly. It's a really uncomfortable experience if you don't understand your expectations and then you can't meet them. But you give somebody a clear path for how to do it, and they will step up to the requirements. So my suggestions for this is be sure that you use rubrics when you're doing a class. Let students know what your outcomes are and what you expect them to be able to do and what level you expect them to do it at. As well as avoid opinion-based grading. It's so discouraging and hurtful to students when they submit, they pour their heart and soul into a project. They submit it thinking that they've done what they were supposed to do, only to find out that they were off. And it can be so incredibly humiliating and frustrating, especially to adult students who maybe just they didn't understand. They were not given the clear outcomes to begin with. And so you end up grading based off of whether or not you kind of liked it. So my suggestion is avoid that. Be clear. Use rubrics as much as possible. So here are the 3 parts of a miserable job or a miserable course. But I want to, the way it's framed in the book is also negative. So this is how I think of it now. It's a much more positive. You want your course to be relationship-based, student-centered, and measurable. And I found it interesting that when I was creating this presentation, I compared these 3 things to the outcomes for the strategic plan, and I think there's an interesting connection. We want to be community-based, which I think is almost the same as being relationship-based. We want to innovate to support student success. That's making something student-centered and relevant. And lastly, assuring affordability and sustainability, to me, is all about finding the measures and making sure that those measures are achievable. And I think when we do these things, we're not only going to meet our strategic plan goals, but we're going to create a work environment and a learning environment that is not miserable, that's enjoyable and successful for students. I wish you luck in your teaching and learning roles.